Hello and welcome to the Product Biz Podcast. My name is Monica Little and I'm your host, and I'm super excited for today's episode where we are talking about social media, partnerships on Instagram, the importance of user-generated content and how to get user-generated content with two amazing social media experts, Kristina and Maria. So Kristina and Maria are the co-founders of The Social Snippet, a social media and podcasting agency that helps entrepreneurs build their community. They are super passionate about making an impact and helping others do the same. We are going to share some tips for you and just remotivate you with Instagram, social media, showing up, showing your face, all the fun things that we should be doing on Instagram to really grow our audience and to get more sales, right? So this is going to be a great conversation, and I'm so excited to bring them on board so you can hear more of what they have to share with us today. Well, welcome Kristina and Maria to the Product Biz Podcast. I'm so excited to have you both here today.
Yay, we're so excited to be here. It's always a little bit of a challenge having both of us because I take up a lot of airtime. So Maria and I are always like gesturing to each other, but we're so excited to be here with you, Monica. I'm like so grateful for you and sharing your audience and your space with us.
Yes, this is going to be such an awesome conversation. I know you two are just experts on social media, on community building, stuff that is so important, I think, for all entrepreneurs and business owners. So I would love to hear from you both first before we dive into top Instagram, social media, community building tips. Just bring us up to speed on what you do, how you got here, why you're passionate about Instagram, social media, and all that fun stuff.
Oh, such a great question. Thank you, Monica.
Question, I know.
Such a loaded question. And the story has evolved over the years because it used to take me like 2 hours to tell. So I'm going to try and do it in less than 5 minutes. We'll see how that goes. But it has been a long journey for us. We've known each other for, I think, at least 10 years now. And so our relationship has evolved a lot over the years, and we sort of fell into entrepreneurship. I think the way a lot of entrepreneurs kind of fall into it, where you sort of stumble across a problem and it lines up with a skill set that you happen to have, and then magic happens. So that's sort of what happened to us. Kristina and I go way back. We went to university together. We were in the same program. We did a lot of traveling together, became great friends. And then post-university, I was working in travel and she was working in higher ed. And then when the pandemic happened, I was a little bit like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen now? Because especially at the beginning of the pandemic, there were so many unknowns, and working in travel, I really felt like I had no idea how many years this would last. And I really just needed to pivot and kind of pick a different career choice. So I was a little lost in that time. And thankfully it aligned that Kristina had started her own personal development coaching business and was looking for a VA. So she hired me. And then we ended up running her business pretty much all on Instagram, made all her sales on Instagram, had like sold out launches. It was going so well. And then we had people just like relentlessly approaching us, like, can you help me with my social? And we were always like, no, but do you want personal development coaching? And eventually enough people asked that we said yes. And the Social Snippet was born. So we are a social media and podcasting agency that help all kinds of different business owners scale their big ideas and kind of bring their mission to life, reach their ideal audience, build their community. Yes. We learned a lot of the stuff we know in our previous worlds, and also working on Kristina's business, launching her previous podcast. And we kind of brought all of those learnings and skills and talents into the agency, and it's been great. So we've been at it for about just over 2 years now. We have a growing team, and it's been super fun. So that's a little bit about us, and it didn't take me 2 hours.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And I think that just shows the importance of Instagram and actually connecting with the right people and using it as a tool for your business. And love hearing how you both pivoted, and that's actually what you do now. Because I think for product business owners, I think people know that Instagram is important, but until they actually see how it fits and how it works and how beneficial it actually is to connect with the right people, to know how to speak to them, to talk about your products, to have them interested, to have these loyal customers that are following you and excited. I think getting people from starting on Instagram and kind of posting on a daily basis to actually feeling that impact, that community, and having those sales comes in. I mean, that's a long journey from one end to the other. So I'm excited to have you both on here as our social media experts and gurus to give us your tips to get people on the right direction. So I think that will really take us to our first question here. So when you have someone who is on social media, this is going to be a very general question. I want to see how you both take this with your answer. But what are some of those top tips on how do you actually make Instagram work for your business? Is it specific content? Is it focusing on specific parts? Is it a balance between community versus selling? Like, what are those major pillars or concepts or tips that you would give someone who's really trying to work on their Instagram to get it to a point where they have loyal customers, people are buying their products, they're excited, and they're engaged?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would start off by saying a lot of it's firstly trial and error. So what works for you is not going to work for everybody, and vice versa. Often what we find when we work with our clients or through our course or things like that, like folks are very focused on the fact that there's somebody else in their industry doing this like this, and so that they should be able to do it too. And sometimes that's just not the case. And so it's a mixture of finding out like what your audience likes and what you like doing and how you like showing up. So I can talk about this like ad nauseum, so I'll be brief, but it's really important that when we're trying to choose like what platforms we're showing up on, it's one, a platform where our ideal client is, right? So say if you're a product-based business and you're targeting like the youth, right? You're targeting people who are 20. You probably should be on TikTok. You probably should be making TikToks. If, you are a product-based business that is targeting people 55 plus, you certainly should be on Facebook, right? You probably don't need a TikTok presence. And so if you're in that early stage, you don't need to be everywhere, but you need to be on the platforms that one, your audience would really benefit from, and two, that you actually enjoy being on and trying to find some joy there. A lot of folks love to be creative, right? Like where they'll love to make really cool reels and love to stick out with the trends. There's people who hate that. There's people like myself. I love talking in stories and connecting with my audience like that. Maria doesn't like doing that, right? But Maria's exceptional with graphics. We need to keep me out of Canva. Like, I actually got my account deleted. They cut me out. But it's things like that where it's like trying to figure out what your strengths are and playing to those and choosing a platform and a space that you can do really good things in.
Yeah. And I love what you said about two things. You said strengths and also trial and error. Because I think there's a big distinction between there's some things that some of us may be naturally good at, but there's also strengths that you can build from trial and error. Because I think at least what I see, which I would love to hear from both of you too, is sometimes people think that maybe they're not good at a certain component of Instagram, so they don't even try it. And then that prevents them from ever really seeing the potential progress in there. Now, I think there's obviously the conversation of like, if you literally hate showing up on your stories, okay, like we totally get that. But what would you say to someone who owns a product-based business? Is that important for them to show up on their stories, to have that front facing, to be on there? And if they don't like doing that, is it just a matter of, hey, try it out, give it a whirl for a couple weeks. And then if you really don't like it, oh, cool, let's get someone on your team who can help out or someone who can do that for you, or let's find a way to make it fun. But talk me through that train of thought. Number one, is that part of social media important for people with a product-based business? And if someone isn't a fan of it, what are some solutions or creative ways to get them either excited or to get it off their plate so they can still leverage that without maybe pulling their own teeth if they really do dislike it?
Yeah, I think showing up is definitely important, especially with product-based businesses. Like, I think sometimes product-based business owners are a little bit tempted to like hide behind their product, and they're like, oh, I don't run a service and it's not me who's, showing up on the other end of these calls, or how it might be with a service-based business. So they tend to just kind of put the product first and you don't see much of them. I think it's really, really powerful when they do show up though, because especially if you have like a story or a mission behind your product, which I find most business owners do, because there's a reason they're creating this product. People will love to hear that. People love to be bought into your story, bought into you, learn about you. And something we always say is people buy from people. So as much as you can like personify yourself and the brand and everything and give people that background, people just love that so much. And one of my favorite marketing like pieces of advice is just like, think about what would appeal to you. And so when I'm shopping for a product, I love to buy from a founder who's a woman, or a founder who has a great cause behind them, or a founder who has an amazing story about why they started this product. And those things really do kind of like sell me on the product itself, because even though I'm just buying something like an object, there's more meaning behind it. And social gives you that opportunity to really like lean into that meaning and showcase it and tell people about it. So I think it is really important to show up. And we hear that all the time where people are like, I'm not good at this, or I'm scared, or this or that. And I think that I'm not good at this, you can't, that one's hard for me because like you should have seen my first reel. It was horrible. Like no one starts out being amazing at something. You just try things and you get better and you learn as you do it, and everything's information. I put out a reel the other day that was like, I've had social media posts when I first started that got 0 likes. And was that hard? Sure. But those pieces of content like give you information and you can learn from them, and everything, even if it doesn't go well, it's just information for you to learn and grow and figure out what works for you. So the talking on the stories is a great example. I was always like, I hate doing that. So, but I can find other ways to do it. Maybe I take a selfie and I write in text what I would have said, or sometimes I'll practice and just do like a shorter story. So I think there are ways to show up, even if it's not perfect, just taking that messy action. And a lot of the times people actually really value the imperfections that come with not exactly knowing what you're doing.
Yeah, I love that answer, because then essentially it comes down to like people want to see your face, but you can get creative in ways to do that. So like you said, maybe it's a reel, because a reel is a little bit more edited. It's less public speaking on the fly showing up on your stories. Maybe it's a photo of you with text, or maybe it's a quick story that you're doing just to get kind of your foot in the water to start getting comfortable with doing it. So the importance is though that people want to know who is the person behind the business. They want to know about your story. They want to see your face. And before we started recording, I was telling Kristina, like, yeah, especially with small businesses, people want to buy from small businesses because of that story, that owner, because they're a small business, and that's who they connect with. So when that person isn't on Instagram and the reels and the stories, that's like a fundamental part that's truly missing. Because if someone wanted to buy from who knows who, they would go to Amazon, they would go to Target, they would go to wherever to purchase. But if they're buying from a small business owner, it's because they connect with that person. They want to support a small business, like you said, the values, and they just know that, hey, this is someone who's actually behind the scenes doing all the work here, that's creating this product, and I want to support them because they have an awesome product and an awesome vision and awesome values that go behind it. So I think that a lot of business owners really miss, like you said, they kind of hide behind the product, right?
Yeah, totally.
Can I add to that, Monica? I was going to say that one of the other pieces too is that we can get creative with it. Like there's lots of platforms out there right now that like serve different people. Like even I think from a product-based perspective, Pinterest is an amazing platform where there's not that much showing up. Right? Like it's a consistency game, right? You're making lots of graphics, like you're creating lots of like things that would bring to your web pages, right? Like that's a different kind of social media. We offer Pinterest, like, and we have clients that just do Pinterest, and they have huge businesses and they're doing quite well, right? So that's awesome. But when we're talking about social media is inherently social. It's about connections. It's about relationships. And so people have gotten creative with it too, where even like if it's, okay, you're scared of showing up and having your face in it, and you're afraid to jump on there and say, hey, I'm Monica, and this is like what I'm up to today. Like maybe that's not the vibe for you, and that's fine. But like, look at Duolingo. They like got that green owl to like, you know, like on TikTok. It's an owl, right? Am I wrong?
I know it is. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I thought it was a bird, but anyway.
Oh, I think it's an owl. I haven't been on it. I downloaded it like 3 years ago, but something, bird, owl, one of those things.
They get this owl, right? And they create this persona around it. And why people are so excited about it isn't because it's a cute green bird. It's about the personality. It's sassy, right? Why are people into Wendy's right now? It's not the redheaded little girl with the braids. It's the sassiness on social, right? So there's things you can do that are about you and about your personality that you're going to be able to bring it through. It just has to be unique, entertaining, or like connect you with somebody. So for me, I'm not funny online. Like I don't do funny things. I'm naturally like, I think kind of jokes, but like, you know, online, that's not my vibe. I'm not like going to post memes, but we have a friend who posts memes all the time, and it really helped grow his account. So it's really all about kind of where you're at and really leaning into like that authenticity, because people do buy from people in all different types of ways.
Absolutely. I love that. And just finding that creative voice of what works for you to be able to have that connection. So when we talk about social media, what is your perspective in terms of the type of content that product-based business owners should post? Because obviously there's content about like, here's my product, here's the benefits, here's how to use it. That's very product focused, and that can be like one pillar. But do you have pillars? Do you have guidelines? Do you have recommendations on, you know what, if you're selling, it should be this amount of time. You should also focus on entertaining. You should focus on your story. Do you have any just guidelines or ideas or things that people should focus on with their actual social media accounts for their product-based business?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can go first. So I think a big piece of it is really trying to figure out like what you want your brand to be. So I will say that there's a lot of people out there, and I say product-based businesses do this the worst, where they want to be selling all the time. So they're like, hello, bracelet, look at me in this bracelet. Like, do you have this bracelet? Right? Like, so is that important? Sure. People should always know exactly what you're doing when they go to your profile. It should never be confusing. Like, no one should ever go to your profile and be like, what does this person sell? Like, it should be instant. But you also want to be building know, like, and trust with them so that when you're in a position, when people are in a position to buy, you're the first person they think of and they're not being spammed constantly. So there's lots of ways you could do that. I think as a product-based business, I think UGC is a really cool thing. User-generated content where people are making content with your products. Why that's important is not only do you get content from it, which is great and probably takes some of the burden off of you, is that it creates that social proof that people are using it. So that's another piece as well that's really important online, is that people buy from people and people want things that are in demand. Yeah. So look at Taylor Swift. Do I think Taylor Swift would have sold out anyway? Yeah. But but the fact that people are like selling their homes to go to the show is because other people can't get tickets. So it's like creating that demand, right? And so how do you create that excitement and that joy and be able to do that? The other thing then, and we talked about this briefly offline, and maybe then I'll pass the back to Maria, is really focusing on building your community. What does your community want? So are people, enjoying your content? Great. When you post a meme, does it get 100 likes over your regular photo that gets 7? Awesome. That's information. Right? That's information that people want to see this, right? So it's continuously figuring stuff like that out and figuring out how you can best serve your audience. And it's incredible, like the type of information you can get from just looking at things like your analytics and trying to also figure out like, where are there some cool partnership opportunities for you? Like if you're online and you're a product-based business, like you don't need to do business alone, right? So you can look at, if you're a bracelet, who sells rings? Who sells necklaces? Who sells things that, go well with bracelets, matcha, like whatever, and start to build those kind of cool partnerships where you can share content because you share an audience. So for example, for us, like we have some amazing power partners. Like one of our friends, Sarah, she's a Shopify genius. Shopify, you wouldn't think like, how does that connect? We funnel clients to each other every week because people who want social media help typically need a website. So it's like those things where we're always, I think Monica, Sarah, right? You guys connect. Yeah, right? So like, great, but Sarah's like probably our number one referral source. And so that's because we have a really great partnership and we share an audience. So who do you share an audience with and who are you able to pour into in that way and make that first move, send that first DM asking for a collaboration, be the person who makes the content for the other person and show up in that way, I think can be really impactful.
Yeah, I love the partnership topic because this actually came up with one of my members. She sells soaps that look like donuts, like look edible, and they are just so cute. And it's kind of like this novelty item, right? She has this donut soap that has Fruity Pebbles on top, where literally the Fruity Pebble are not Fruit Loops, and the Fruit Loops are made out of soap. Everything is made out of soap. She has other ones that look just like a vanilla sprinkled donut or a chocolate sprinkled donut. And what she did, which is so interesting, and I know she listens to this podcast, so she's going to hear us talking about how great it is. But she actually, at her gym, which she goes to and is a personal trainer at, started to sell some of her donut soaps there because there were a lot of competitor, like NPC competitors, people who are very into fitness, where they maybe can't, quote unquote, eat a donut because they're about to compete. So they're being pretty strict on their diet. But when they saw donut soap, they're like, oh my God, I need this because I'm in competition mode and and I just can't wait till this competition is over so I can actually splurge on a donut. But for the meantime, I'm going to buy this donut soap. And I was like, oh my God, Rose, if you're getting that good of feedback from selling your products in a gym, you should reach out on Instagram to NPC competitors and be like, hey, I would love to send you some free donut soaps because I think your audience would love it. You can experience it. So then I love what you said about user-generated content. Cool. Now that person will be posting about it on their social media, and Rose can use it on her social media, but also really a good way to get followers, right? If you're struggling with followers, if you have 100 or 200, I mean, it can be a slow battle for that to increase. It can be a slow battle to get found with like hashtags and things like that. But if you partner with other people and they're just sharing about your products and promoting it and funneling people to follow you, cool. Now you can focus on really connecting with them, engaging with them, getting them to be even more interested in your products. And then when you do post about selling or whatever you want about the benefits of your product, or actually like a sales post, you have people who are warm, interested, and want to buy from you. Yeah. So I love that you said that, because I feel like that's one of the most underutilized ways to grow your audience and grow your following. And when I was growing my skincare business, Plant-Based Beauty, that's what I leveraged. Health and wellness bloggers, healthy food bloggers, even like beauty bloggers. I would reach out to so many people and be like, can I just send you a couple of free samples for you to share on your stories? And you get a handful of followers here and there. And it's like, wow, this is actually great. I'm getting more exposure and getting in front of more people. So I think that is like such an underutilized way to get more followers and just get in front of a larger audience and start building that community that you said, right?
I was also going to say too, just a little hot tip from something I've seen, is that there's a lot of people who, when you're in a product-based business and you think about people to send stuff to, and you're like, okay, that person has 100,000 followers. Like, I'm going to send it to them. And it's like, that person's not likely to post, like, you know, in the sense, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, because I'm sure like it's happened, but like 100,000 followers, like imagine how many of those requests they're getting, right? Like constantly being asked these things, right? So finding actually like more micro influencers that are entirely niche specific. Like, so if you're really like, for us, like if say we were targeting, we're not a really great example to use micro influencers because we're not product-based businesses, but say we were a soap company and we wanted to target refilleries, or we wanted to target like eco people, right? We would find people under the 10,000 mark and be like, hey, I'd love to send this to you. And you don't always need to set parameters with people. Like, you don't need to be like, hey, 3 stories and a reel, because I often find sometimes, and this could bite somebody, so I don't want to like, don't overdo it, but sometimes people are actually willing to do more than you're expecting, because they're just so grateful. So even Maria and I, like, we're like micro influencers that don't do any influencing, and I'm doing quotation marks if you're listening to this. And we reached out to a local hotel and we were like, hey, we want to run a team retreat. We're willing to do some stuff if you're willing to give us a room. And they were like, yeah, for sure. And I was about to give away literally my home to them. Like, I was like, I'll make an SEO blog for them. I'll do a video. I'll do 10 reels, like 15 photos. And when I emailed them being like, what do you want? They're like, a couple reels and a couple photos would be really helpful. Yeah. Right. But it was because we were in such gratitude to be able to, and we wanted to show up, and we know we're going to over deliver for them. So I think just like also tempering your expectations that like someone who has 100,000 followers might not even blow up your business. It might not be on their radar. That's also smoke and mirrors. You have no idea. But someone who has a really engaged community of people that buy from them consistently, those are the better people to target.
Yeah, 100%. And another really interesting part of that too, I mean, I 100% agree on finding the micro influencers, because I got burned before of like sending it to someone with a big following. And sometimes, I mean, like you said, it totally depends on the situation. But what happened to me is when you are, especially nowadays, someone with a big following, they're probably getting paid to do posts. So if you reach out to them, someone with a big following, will you please share about it? Yeah, cool. It's going to cost you $2,000. Okay, not really what I was expecting. I was looking for more of like a partnership, right? So I love what you said of micro influencers. And I think that's a huge takeaway for anyone listening to this podcast is take a moment to stop and think, who on Instagram, maybe that doesn't sell their own product, not even a complimentary product, is a blogger or has an audience or is an influencer or is, in the example that we gave, like a bodybuilder or whatever it may be, that your product is something so simple that they can share about, that it's a unique audience that you can get in front of. And another example, love what you said about the hotel, like perfect example. I have another one of my members who sells all natural soap, and I connected her with someone who's an eczema coach. So she is a coach that helps people with eczema change their diet, change the products in their house so they can clear their eczema. Well, a big part of that is the products that you use on your skin. So if you can create this amazing relationship and partnership with someone who's an eczema coach, that now every time she's talking about products, clean products to use on your skin, she recommends your soap, cool, like funneling a ton of people to you. So I think that's awesome, that partnership tip. And also user-generated content, just to maybe elaborate what you said too on the social proof side, because I feel like that's huge, especially because sometimes maybe customers love your products, but maybe they're just not, going on social media to share about it. They may love your product, but it may not be the first thing that they click on their phone, right? But if you can get these partnerships to share about your products and then your existing followers see that, they're going to be like, wow, look, this person is partnering with this person, or this micro influencer is trying their product. And it just creates more of that attention and desire and demand that you were saying that leads your existing followers to want to actually go to your website and see what the hype is all about, right? So I love like this whole partnership, user generated content, community piece that you mentioned. I think that's super impactful. And if that's the main takeaway people get of like, who can I reach out to that's in a complementary but different audience than what I have to partner with them? Cool. Like that's a beautiful takeaway right there. Anything else that you guys want to share in terms of what type of content people should be posting on Instagram? We talked about UGC, we talked about partnerships, we talked about community, we talked about the balance of selling and storytelling. I feel like that's probably a big portion of it, but is there anything else in terms of the type of content that, or tips on content creation for product-based business owners that you would recommend?
Yeah, I think Kristina, you did a great job of like in your talk outlining everything. And Monica, to answer your original question, like I don't think there's a set, like you have to post about these pillars if you're a product-based business. I really want to echo what Kristina said around like finding what works for you and what feels good for you and what you like posting about. Because often for us, we find for ourselves and our clients, like the content that performs the best is the content that we're most excited about, that they're most excited about, that they had the most fun filming or shooting or whatever that looks like. So I think that's really important to lean into. But the only other thing coming to mind for me is I think there's an opportunity to showcase your values as a founder and your brand's values. So, for example, this is on the similar train, but I follow a refillery that's near me here in Toronto, and they post all of this amazing stuff about like how to eliminate toxins from like your day-to-day life, how to, I don't know, make your own soap at home or do these like fun activities. They'll post like Earth Day cleanups and like they'll do little community events and different things like that. And I think it really gives them an opportunity to show their audience like what they care about and what they value. And it gives the audience that opportunity to buy back in and say, I care about those things too. And not only do I want to support you because we have the same values, but also I'm getting all this value out of content where, like we're talking about, instead of just being sold to all the time, I'm actually getting something from the content. I'm learning things, I'm getting educated, and at the same time, I'm learning more about the brand, their values. Even your friend that went to the gym with the donuts, like that's a perfect example. The donut soaps. She loves going to the gym. Wellness is important to her. That's like a core value of hers. And I assume a core value of the brands because she's creating natural soaps that, are good for your body and good for your health. And so, of course, she's at a gym, and of course, her soaps would sell well at a gym because that all ties into her values. So I think any content you can create that showcases those values is really great as well.
I love that. And I think one thing as you were speaking that came up to me, because I'm always trying to piece together, what did I do with my business that worked, especially when I talk to people like you two of sharing like, okay, here are like the strategies, the high level concepts that work. And I'm like, okay, let me see if I can pull that back to my business. But that's something that I totally did too, in terms of like having actual blog posts and having content that people can learn and be educated on that I would also share on my Instagram. So with my plant-based beauty organic skincare, it wasn't just skincare. It was, why is non-toxic skincare important and where else you should be looking at your ingredients, and even getting into specific topics about deodorant and aluminum and how that can be harmful and all of these different components that when people would come to my Instagram, it wouldn't just be product. It would be product education, product a cool tip or something that maybe they haven't heard before, product, and then maybe something that will help them with their own journey as they're working through detoxing their body or whatever they're working through, detoxing the products in their house. So I think that's something really interesting because I don't talk to my members about that too much in terms of having like blogs or more topics. But when you say that, I'm like, that actually was something that worked pretty well for me. And maybe that's a big part of running a product business too, is what are you educating on? Like truly educating on, if it's, you know, if you sell party decor, how to create an awesome party, or if you sell skincare, why this organic skincare is important. So I think that's something really big that I think people can leverage too, is like blog posts, right? Do you see a lot with that with any of the people that you work with? I know, Kristina, you mentioned Pinterest. So I'm assuming like Pinterest blogs and weaving that into maybe your social media strategy is something that could be really valuable as well, right?
Yeah, I was actually going to say, like, in terms of blogs and social, like, blogs are a great piece of long form content. Are they a community building tool? I would say no. Like, you know, so
Okay.
Is that the one thing you should do? If you've got energy for one thing, is it writing blogs? I'd say no. But if you've already got a machine rolling a little bit, like we're starting to get into the blog space now too. And it's because our machine's rolling. Like we've got freebies, we have a course, we've got, you know, these things. So now we feel in a good place to actually invest in blogs, unless like long form writing about your niche is your topic, then like do you and enjoy. But one of the things I was going to say is that Instagram and social media, like really when you're making content, ask yourself, like, what problem do I solve for people? And like, what questions does my audience have about what I do? And that is a great place to make content from, because even with blogs, like when we're talking about SEO, right? That's what you want to be doing, is creating blogs that answer questions. So that when someone goes, how do I sell on Etsy? Monica comes up, right? Like that's ideal state. So it's similarly for you with social, and social is getting more SEO like driven, and especially TikTok and Instagram. And so you want it to be that someone comes on and you're asking, like, they're like, why should I buy eco-friendly soap? Like that's more like 10 times more expensive than my Walmart soap. Like why? Right. And then so it's like, this is why the long-term benefits, like even for me, I remember making that switch from regular deodorant to natural deodorant. And I was like, oh, this is so expensive. Like, why would I pay $10 more for something that smells worse? Like, this is a hard sell. But when I was looking at the health behind it, especially for women and the impact with breast cancer, stuff like that, I was like, oh, this is a no-brainer. But someone had to sell me on that. They had to sell me on the fact it was a no-brainer. So what about your niche? Hopefully your niche is not cancer related in any way, but like what in your niche is going to be able to tell people it's a no-brainer and that you're answering questions before they are even asking them? That people are so informed on your topic that they're able to advocate for you, make those warm referrals for you, talk about your product for you because they know so much about it. We work with a waste management company, dog waste management, which is niche. This is niche.
Very niche.
I know way too much about the impact of dog waste on the environment. Way too much. Every time I see dog poop on the ground, I'm like, I should be picking this up. It's not my dogs, but I should. Right? But it's because, and now when people are talking to me about like, you know, their dogs and going to the park, I'm like, hey, this is why this is really important. These are the types of parks you should go to. You should look out for this. And I'm an advocate for them because they've done such a good job educating me. Even though it was us educating for their social. So, so it's the same thing, right? It's like, how do you create content that educates your folks enough that answers questions for people before they help them?
Yes, I love that. Now, one thing that I think people come up with when they hear that, because I totally get where we're coming from with like, what problem do you solve and what questions do people have? Sometimes people, what they say to me is, well, my product doesn't solve a problem. So what would you say to that? So for example, I mean, organic skincare is easy, right? I'm solving a problem of either you want clearer skin or smoother skin, or you want a more healthy alternative. But for example, let's go back to Rose with Sweet Rosy soaps with the donut soaps. Well, it's like gift giving and giving someone a gift and knowing the perfect gift to give them that they're going to love and enjoy. That's solving a problem right there, right?
Yeah. When you said that, when you were like, some people don't have a problem to solve, I was like, I cannot think of one business that doesn't have a problem to solve. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a problem to solve. Like, you know, for us, even with a social media agency, like what problem do we solve? Can people post on Instagram themselves? Yes. You know, like I love it when people post on their own Instagrams. I'm like, I'm here for that. We love when people do our course and they're successful and they're like moving forward. Right. But what problem do we solve? We help busy entrepreneurs who don't have time to do social build community, right? So that's important. Same for you, right? Like lots of people probably spend hours and hours on Etsy and they're like, I'm not making sales. I don't know how. You solved that problem for them. For a soap, it's like, okay, great. Like, yeah, it's a cute item. You're bringing joy.
Yep.
Like that's a problem. Like people don't have enough joy. Like you're bringing happiness. Like you're getting people excited about something, right? And so I think it's like not only reframing like, okay, like what problem is it? It has to be negative. It's like, what solution are you providing?
Yeah.
Like what solution are you providing? What joy are you providing? Yeah, because we can all like get down on our businesses and be like, oh, like this is like how many? Like I have a master's degree in leadership, and I had this huge rub. Like Maria and I talk about this all the time. I was like, I can't leave my 6-figure job to be a social media manager. Like people do this on Fiverr. Like I can't do this. Like, and I had all these rubs on this and I wasn't thinking. And now when I talk about this, it's like, I actually talk about our business because what we're doing is we're marketing people's dreams. And there's almost nothing more important to me than that. Right. So it's the reframe around some of that, which is like, I think that mindset work.
Yes, I love it. And I think that's perfect what you said of like joy and giving people confidence. Like I hear it from people who make jewelry. Well, I'm not solving a problem. I'm like, you actually are giving people confidence, something that they can quickly put on as they run out the door, that they feel good wearing, that extra boost. So I love how you said of reframing it to what solution are you giving them or what maybe additional joy or confidence or love or whatever it may be, because every single business is solving some sort of problem in some sort of way. Like no matter if it's a convenience item or if it's what's the other term, because there's items that you need, right, versus there's items that maybe you just want. So sometimes people are like, well, I'm not something that people need, but it's still solving a problem, like it's still elevating some sort of emotion. So I love that you talk through that, because I know people are probably listening and are like, well, I don't solve a problem, but it's like truly you do in some capacity or another. You are giving people something in exchange for, you know, using your product. So love that you gave that example. Okay, cool. So last thing I want to just end with is to hear from both of you in terms of how can people work with you, because you are both obviously so knowledgeable in social media and community and just helping people and businesses grow. So tell us more about where people can find you on Instagram, your website, what your course is about, and all of the amazingness that you're working on.
Oh, there's a lot. There are a lot of different ways you can find us. So our website is like a good home base. It's thesocialsnippet.com. And our Instagram is at @thesocialsnippet. So those are kind of two, I would say, main hubs that you can follow and kind of catch up with us. Kristina has an amazing podcast that I sometimes hop in on, and she also has other amazing guests called Build Your Digital Community. Our course is a 6-week self-led, but also there's a live component, and essentially it's made for people who either aren't interested in done-for-you services or can't afford them yet, or are just really looking to take their social kind of in-house, and we basically just teach them everything we know. So if you're one of those people who are like, I'm spending hours on Instagram and I'm like not seeing any growth, it's not moving the needle, this is definitely the course for you. We tell you all our secrets, all the strategies and tips and everything to go from feeling super overwhelmed with no growth to spending less time, but actually feeling like really good about your community building and your growth. And some of the things we talked about today are just the tip of the iceberg. So if you're interested, would love to see you guys in that course. We're going to be relaunching it again this fall. And did I miss anything, Kristina? Oh, done for you services. We also do done for you social and podcasting. Sorry. That was like actually our bread and butter. I don't know why I forgot that. That's like the main thing that we do. But I'm just so excited about all these other pieces we're building. So
awesome.
I was going to say Monica will be on our podcast in the fall, so I'm really excited about that. And and we have lots of done for you services, social media, podcasting, but really love connecting with entrepreneurs and other small businesses who are, you know, trying to figure out social and trying to learn. We provide lots of tips on our socials. So any friend of Monica is a friend of ours. So feel free to DM us with any questions you have, or if you're like, hey, this is something I've been thinking about and I don't know what to do, DM us. We love to hear from folks.
Awesome. I'll make sure to link all of that in the show notes so people can easily find you. But with that, I just want to say thank you both so much. This has been such an awesome conversation. So many good pieces of feedback and tips that I know people are going to be excited to implement. So thank you both for hanging out with me here today.
Thanks so much for having us.